You're watching Rise Up Against School Violence, a special presentation from Maine's Total Weather News coverage.
Welcome back to our special presentation. We're live here at the WMTW studios having a conversation about school safety with parents and students and faculty and staff about what can be done right here in Maine to make schools safer.
Before the break, we were talking about mental health. We're going to kind of turn the conversation now to social media, and the two kind of may play hand in hand. I would like to see a show of hands. How many people think social media is a good thing when it comes to either creating a buzz about a movement or spreading awareness about mass shootings? Is it good?
And then on the flip side, is social media harmful? Is the flip side of that. How many people think that social media is harmful in this context? Everyone seems kind of split. Why is everybody so split?
I think it can be both. I think in one way, it can be a great way to bring people together who have like ideas, to share things with family and friends, and just for people to galvanize a movement. But at the same time, I think we risk too much that the conversations either become one-sided, it's only people with like ideas, and you're not having a conversation like this where people have a variety of diverse opinions, and we can all respectfully listen and hear each other. But also, I think that social media, it gives us this really easy screen of not looking into somebody's eyes anymore. You know, it's really easy for somebody to make harsher comments than they might in a direct one-on-one conversation. It's really easy to get in an online fight with somebody and have a polarizing discussion that doesn't actually advance any type of good conversation that can help us make progress, which we just want people in our country to be safe.
And what's it mean for school safety, though, in that context?
For school safety, I think it's again, I've heard stories of kids who have heard things through social media and brought them up through the right channels in order to avoid issues from happening. That's a good thing. However, it could also make students feel more fear when, like, the rumor mill or the hallway buzz doesn't ever stop for kids anymore.
Maybe perpetuates the fear.
And so they might not be able to have those moments where they can put it away.
Yeah, because it's in school, it's at home, you know, it might make them a bit more anxious, a bit more nervous about what it's like in the classroom. When it comes to, is it helpful for creating a movement? Does someone want to talk about that?
I'm organizing the walkout at my school, which we didn't have school today, so it will be tomorrow. But we posted an event on Facebook, and within probably, I don't know, I think we posted it at around like 4 in the afternoon. And by like 6 at night, I think we had almost 100 people who were either interested or going to the event. So I think it's really powerful in like getting the word around. And yeah, and it's easy to just like hit share, and then more people know about it. So
yeah, so at Lewiston, I've been lucky enough to be involved with this, and it really does make a difference. You get to, as much as it's really limiting being behind a screen, that really does play a factor into it, but you get into people that would be too afraid to speak up at lunch, at the table, in the classroom, in the group discussion. People, for good and for bad, can voice up their opinions on social media, in groups, in private messages. People are way more willing to reach out and say, I want to help, please, like, this is really hard for me. And odds are, it's usually the type of kids who can't stand up who have the loudest message to say, because they're always in class listening, hearing, seeing what's going on. And I think social media provides an outlet for them to really speak up. And I think it's really powerful, especially with our generation.
Officer Joost, I have a question for you. We hear so often in the news, we report often, that sometimes crimes are solved by tips, either on Facebook or something people see on Facebook. So when we're talking about social media in terms of how do we stop these incidents from ever happening again, is it helpful for things to be shared on social media because that's kind of the way you guys learn about it? Or does it make it a snowball effect, like, well, they did it at this school and now there's a closing at this school and now this one's on lockdown? You know, which is it, or is it both?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think the social media can help kids alert authorities. They're ears are more to the ground in that way, and they know what's going on in the school more than we do when it comes to their friends and peers. So the social media will help. Look, I just saw this post. I mean, that's what happened to us in South Portland, and it happened in other places. They saw the post, they brought it to, you know, someone either in the school or to the police. And so that part works. The part that then doesn't work after that is when now everybody's speculating, when, you know, now it's being taken care of, or it's being dealt with, and now we have the rumor mill going. And that part then plays down, which is like any other rumor mill that it would have been, but it's just faster. It goes further. So I think it has its both, but it comes down to people being responsible, really. It comes down to everybody here, us, the media, everyone being more responsible with it and not spreading the rumors that way afterwards. Oh, I heard this, or I heard that. Oh, I want to know everything. You know, detail. I want to know the complete police investigation. I want to know this. I mean, I don't know everything about everybody's lives in the school, and I don't want to know about everybody's lives in the school. You know, I can't handle it. You know, I just can't handle all that. But at least trying to create that conversation, and from the police end, via social media, this is what happened, or from the school, using it is a great tool. They can go on the Facebook page, or whatever you have, and being like, this is what we did, this is what we done, your community's safe, this is what happened, thank you so much. So it does. So I think, again, it comes down to the individuals.
Sure.
I mean, I know social media had helped earlier this year at Lewiston High School stop something. It ended up being fake, but the question behind it was, like, what if it was real? And I know that it was on social media, it was brought to authorities' attention, and it was stopped before we even went to school the next day. So we ended up not having school. It ended up being an emergency. They took care of it. And that's the bright side of it, but the bad side of it is it creates, like, clones. Like, then people start saying, well, if we don't have to go to school, then we're going to start doing this more often. And then people start making false threats, and it's just, it's sad, because then you can't tell what's real from fake, and then you don't know what kind of precautions to take, whether or not you should be serious about it or whether or not it's a fake. So you go to school every day, well, I heard this on social media. I mean, I don't know what to believe anymore, and that's where it can.
Yeah, right after Parkland, we had so many of these social media threats here in our state. They just kept going, kept going, kept going. Was this people being copycats, do you think? Was this people being overly cautious? Was it a combination of both? What happened there in those days after, and what did you guys see online?
I think some of it wasn't any copy. It was just people, however those kids were reacting at that time. I don't think it had anything to do with Parkland in that way. You would think, like, well, why are you doing that? This just happened to, everyone's awareness is higher, but they, for whatever reason, did what they did or said what they said, which had nothing to do with, like, Parkland. Maybe they're upset at somebody at the school. Maybe they're upset at, you know, something happened. Maybe they've been bullied or something, and then they reacted out in anger via social media saying, I'm going to come to the school and do this, or I'm going to do that, as opposed to having a plan. I mean, there was somebody that had more of a plan. I think up north a bit more. So you got to differentiate between where is it, what's the cause and effect? Is there someone who has a real plan, or is it someone acting out of anger? You know, the mental illness part, all of that plays into it.
Yeah, I think that it's kind of connected to the Parkland shooting, because, as I said earlier, I'm organizing the walkout. So out of like going on the Facebook page, there are so many comments stemming off of that, and I think a lot of it is anger towards, like, oh, you're gonna take away our guns and stuff, which, I mean, that's another talk. But so we personally, I haven't read through all of them because that would make me feel terrified, but just reading through a couple, we've gotten so many threats as to, like, what people say that they're gonna do, like, during the walkout, or like what they're gonna come in school and do. So it's kind of terrifying.
Really, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Now, Steve, down the end there, I wanted to ask you about this. When we did talk during our pre-interviews, you mentioned that the media glorifies actions. You say stop covering school shootings.
Yeah. We actually talked during the break with the officer here, and he was talking about how when he did his research, how frequent school shootings occurred in the 70s and 80s before they got covered as much. And it just seems to be glorified. Some of the people who do it know that this is the way for them to get on the media and get on TV. And it's kind of a sad mental illness that that's the way it has to happen. But you know, I think that leads to it. I think I've dealt with it as an administrator when we did bomb threats and that thing. There's a high degree of copycatting. You create that awareness, and someone else says, hey, that's not a bad idea, maybe I'm going to try it. Maybe, as one of the students said, someone says, hey, there's a good way to get out of school tomorrow. So,
is there a suggestion about how to cover it? I mean, is it just leave it alone and don't talk about it? Or should we, I know somebody suggested maybe not reporting the shooter's name. Do you see any kind of solution in that way, or a middle ground?
Yeah, I mean, I like the suggestion of not covering the person who perpetrated the incident. And trying to get the information out, but then just don't flood. But that's easier said than done.
Sure,
that's like telling me not to teach something in class.
On the other side of the coin, when something like this happens, don't you want to know who did it though, and why did they do it? Which, if you didn't report the information about the shooter, those things would never be known.
Yeah, it's a delicate dance, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see more on the resolution and, yeah, the reasons why this is what we uncovered, but the ongoing every second of every day for weeks, because it does go on for weeks, is hard. And there's young people out there that seeing that, unfortunately, saying, here's a great way to get on the news every minute of every day for a while. And it's kind of a sad statement, but it's true.
Yeah, thank you. And we're sort of running out of time, but I know you had something to say. Do you want to add something?
I was just going to add that I agree that the glorification is almost dangerous. I think that these people are getting a lot of independent recognition for their actions, and I think that, like he said, there are a lot of people who feel that like they want that recognition, and so I think it involves the media being sensitive to the effects that their coverage has, whether it's like the immediate interviews of children after their school has been shot up. That's dangerous, that's traumatic. Or whether it's the glorification of this person who's committed such a dangerous crime. I think we need to just think a little bit more about the effects that this has, knowing that it's such an issue right now.
So I'm hearing that there are ways to cover it, just make certain
more
precautions.
Selectively. Yeah.
If you could use a general rule of 1 to 100, every minute you're going to spend on something negative going on, give us 100 minutes of great things these kids are doing every day in school.
All right, we're going to pause right there. Love that stopping point, and we will be back right after this with more of this conversation.